The mist hung heavy over Virel 7, like spilled silver across jagged hills, swallowing the jagged mountains and valleys in a ghostly haze. The planet's surface was fractured, scarred by centuries of neglect and the remnants of past skirmishes, and every shadow seemed to move with a life of its own. From orbit, the human convoy descended, engines humming softly, their stealth fields shimmering faintly before fading as they broke through the mist. On the command deck, Captain Alina Ray leaned forward, gripping the cold metal railing as her gaze swept over the landing zone below. Tiny figures, almost transparent, their bodies pulsing with vibrant colors, shifted nervously across the rocky plateau. These were the Thrynn, delicate beings who communicated through chromatic pulses and subtle vibrations. Ray had trained for decades to understand human expressions, but the Thrynn was something else entirely. Their emotions were a living canvas, impossible to ignore, yet impossible to fully read. They're expecting help, or fear, maybe both, she thought, the words heavy in her mind. And here we come. Like gods in the mist, the comes crackled. Static. Then a voice, warped and urgent, broke through. Do not trust the humans. Rhee's stomach tightened. She turned to LT Yerek Sloan, her second in command, whose green eyes flickered with that familiar mix of cynicism and curiosity. Well, he said, voice low, that's one way to make an entrance. Rhee's lips pressed into a thin line. Keep scanning. We don't know who sent it or why. Beneath them, the Thrynn shifted in color. Flashes of orange alarm, perhaps fear, glimmers of white hope, fragile but persistent. Rhee's inner monologue churned. Are we here as healers, or as weapons they don't yet understand? And then came the first sign of the storm to come. From the jagged canyons beyond the colony, hulking silhouettes emerged. The Krynn warlord led his forces, creatures built like jagged mountains of chitin and steel, bristling with weapons designed to kill efficiently and without mercy. Their approach was confident, arrogant. They expected the Thrynn to be easy prey. They expected defenseless medics. What they would encounter instead would redefine their understanding of humanity. Status report, Ray said, the words crisp, authoritative, almost ceremonial. Cloaked warships are in position, Sloan replied, voice tight. Weapons systems online, targeting vectors set, standing by for your command. A low hum filled the atmosphere, sound almost imperceptible, yet vibrating deep into the chest. From orbit, sleek human warships slipped out of stealth. Engines glowed faintly, angular hulls gleaming like metallic predators in the mist. Their movements were precise, deliberate, deadly elegant. Rhee's heart beat faster. She didn't enjoy this. She had never wanted war, but she had trained for this. Precision, efficiency, mercy in destruction. Open fire, she said, almost whispering to herself. And yet her command carried over comes like a clarion call. Lasers streaked through the fog, arcs of blue and crimson light slicing through the air. Explosions blossomed in slow motion, but only where they needed to. The Krynn formations shattered without harming the Thrynn below. The mist glowed with each impact, reflections dancing across the Thrynn's translucent bodies. Orange spikes of terror gave way to awe, blue pulses of fear diluted into tentative relief. Rhee's mind raced. Could we have done less? Should we have held back? Each Krynn casualty, stunned, incapacitated, or immobilized, was a decision she had made. A surgeon, a warrior, a moral arbiter all at once. Pride and guilt twisted inside her like writhing flames. Sloan leaned over, voice quieter now. You did it. They're alive. All of them. She nodded, but didn't speak. Her gaze lingered on the retreating Krynn, dragging the remnants of their pride through the mist. Rhee's inner voice whispered, almost a confession. We are saviors in name, executioners in action. And yet, somehow, necessary. Below, medics began their work. Human teams rushed to the Thrynn, stabilizing, treating, comforting. The juxtaposition was stark. The gentle, meticulous care of medics amid a battlefield of destruction. The Thrynn's colors flickered again, white for gratitude, violet for confusion, and bursts of radiant green that might have been relief or terror. Captain, Sloan said, look at them. Ray followed his gaze. A young Thrynn, no taller than a human child, approached hesitantly. Its color shifts were cautious, a dance between orange and soft green. Ray extended a hand, palm open, weaponless. The Thrynn mirrored the gesture, tentatively touching her fingers. A spark nearly imperceptible, but present passed between them. Connection, Ray thought. Fragile but undeniable. And yet, the moral weight of their presence settled heavier than the planet's mist. Humans had arrived as healers, but they carried the unmistakable power to annihilate. The Thrynn understood it now. Every pulse of light, Every carefully measured laser strike had sent a message. We protect, we destroy, and it is inevitable. Ray allowed herself a small, bitter smile. Sloan noticed. You're enjoying this, he said, teasing. Don't, she replied. Not yet. Maybe never. Hours passed. The Krynn remnants were escorted off the planet, captured or fleeing in disarray. The Thrynn slowly resumed their routines, color shifts softening, pulsing in tentative harmony. Ray walked among them, observing, reflecting. The colony was alive but forever changed. They would remember humans not as medics, not as friends, but as a force beyond comprehension. Guardians wrapped in warships. Night fell. The mist thickened again, now carrying the faint hum of departing warships retreating to orbit. Ray stood alone for a moment, staring at the stars. We saved them. And yet, her mind wandered to the choices that brought her here. Mercy versus power. Healing versus precision. Every decision, every command, weighed heavily. And somewhere deep, a whisper, God help them if they ever fully understand what we chose to be. From below, a Thrynn child's soft vibration reached her ears. Almost musical, almost a wordless thank you. Ray knelt, pressing a hand to her heart in response. The moment was fragile, luminous, human in a way the galaxy rarely permitted. The skies above Rhalex Prime were a sickly green, streaked with clouds that carried the ash of war and the dust of centuries-old conflicts. Below, the city was a fractured landscape of collapsed spires, burned streets, and scattered refugee camps. The humans' medical transport descended slowly, engines whispering against the haze, as if trying not to disturb the ghosts that lingered here. Dr. Kirindev peered through the viewport, gripping the edge of the console. His fingers were pale, knuckles white. This isn't a typical humanitarian mission, he thought. Nothing about this planet is typical. The Votari, the ruling alien species, emerged from the ruins cautiously. Tall, slender beings, their carapaces shimmering like polished bronze, and faces that betrayed nothing but suspicion. Their eyes small and sharp tracked every human movement. Dev exhaled slowly, his mind spinning between the duty that had brought him here and the unspoken tension in the air. They want help, but they don't want us here. How do you heal people who don't trust you? Beside him, Commander Saria Voss scanned the perimeter, fingers hovering over her tactical interface. She had been clear from the start. The medics were the lure. The warships were hidden above, orbiting silently, ready to act if diplomacy failed. She caught Dev's nervous glance and offered a tight, reassuring smile. Relax. You fix them. We handled the rest. The humans set up the hospital amid shattered skyscrapers, sterile modules juxtaposed against the ruin. Inside, holographic screens displayed patient vitals in real. Drones hovered silently, ready to deliver medicine or deploy defensive measures if required. Dev moved among the injured, his mind racing to balance urgency with empathy. Children with fractured limbs, adults with burns, a pregnant woman whose labor had begun prematurely. They all demanded immediate attention. How can I fix this world when it refuses to accept help? Dev thought, wiping sweat from his brow. Outside, the city streets trembled under the approach of a rogue Votari militia, armed with scavenged weapons. Their intentions clear: seize supplies, assert dominance. The humans had anticipated trouble, but no simulation could fully prepare them for the raw, chaotic desperation in the malicious movements. Commander, Dev called from a windowed corridor. They're coming. What do we do? Saria's eyes narrowed. Let's show them the hospital isn't just a hospital. A soft whir of energy fields sounded as drones activated defensive measures. But there was more than just mechanical deterrence. From orbit, the hidden human warships subtly adjusted their positions, cloaking and decloaking, creating shadows that danced across the cityscape, a silent warning to those who dared challenge them. The first wave of militia entered the perimeter. Drones swooped in, delivering aid and simultaneously deploying non-lethal disabling weaponry. Pulses of electromagnetic energy knocked weapons from hands, tripping exosuits and incapacitating attackers without a single fatal strike. The humans moved in tandem, medics stabilizing victims caught in the crossfire, while tactical teams ensured the hospital remained intact. Dev's heart pounded. We came to heal, and yet we are waging war in the corridors. He administered a sedative to a trembling militia soldier while suppressing his own shaking hands. Is this mercy or manipulation? On the hospital rooftop, Saria coordinated the orbital fleet. Holographic projections of warships and city blocks floated in midair, her fingers moving with surgical precision. She tracked every enemy movement, issuing commands in measured tones. Deploy drone cluster 7. She ordered. and Dev's world became a symphony of controlled chaos. Aid and defense intertwined. Medic drones moved among the wounded, while tactical drones disabled threats without permanent harm. A small group of children watched from a corner. Their parents had been caught outside the perimeter. Some lay injured, some dead. One child, trembling with a mix of fear and wonder, whispered to Dev, "Are they helping us? Or fighting us?" He froze. The truth was complicated. The humans were saviors, but they were apex predators in disguise. Dev knelt, meeting the child's gaze. "Both," he said softly. "Sometimes, to save lives, you must also protect them from the ones who wish to harm them." As the militia faltered, confusion spread among their ranks. They had underestimated humanity's dual nature, capable of compassion and destruction in equal measure. They realized that the humans were not just healers, but orchestrators of a precision war, one that spared innocence while eliminating threats. Saria observed from above, noting the expressions of the Votari officials watching from a safe distance. Gratitude and fear warred visibly across their faces. Dev treated a wounded elder, his hands steady despite the chaos. "Doctor," one Votari official called. What are these humans?" Dev paused. He didn't have a simple answer. "We are what we must be, not what they hope we are." The battle subsided as the last of the militia were incapacitated and rounded up. The hospital remained intact. The wounded were cared for. The Votari survivors stepped forward hesitantly, gratitude mixing with awe and lingering suspicion. Inside the hospital, Dev moved among his patients, adjusting IVs, administering antibiotics, whispering reassurances in halting Votari phrases he had learned for this mission. Each pulse of a Thrynn-like color, each subtle vibration of alien skin, reminded him of the delicate balance he maintained between healer and weapon. Outside, Saria signaled the orbital fleet to retract, cloaking once more. The warships glided into shadows, silent guardians observing, ready to intervene again if necessary. Dev paused in the main atrium. The hospital, once a fragile hope in a shattered city, had become a fortress, simultaneously a sanctuary and a demonstration of human resolve. He looked at Saria, who met his gaze briefly, a faint smirk on her lips. "We are saviors and predators," he thought, "and the line between the two is thinner than anyone dares imagine." Night fell over Rhalex Prime, painting the hospital in cold blues and muted greens. Lights from the drones and the residual glow of the warships above created a surreal, almost ethereal scene. Dev stood at a window, watching the city slowly stir. The once fearful Votari, now tentative recipients of aid and protection. One child tugged at his sleeve, pointing upward. Dev followed the gesture. The warships, now cloaked but detectable by the faint glimmer of their energy signatures, drifted silently across the sky. The child's eyes shone with a mixture of awe and fear, reflecting exactly what Dev felt inside. He knelt and whispered, almost to himself, "They think we are healers, but sometimes healing requires showing the full weight of what humanity can be." The city of Draskar was a fortress of stone and metal, a labyrinthian tangle of spires, bridges, and fortified plazas. Smoke curled from several battle-scarred districts, and the air was heavy with a scent of ozone and burning fuel. Humans were not expected here, not by the mercenaries who patrolled the streets with cold precision, and certainly not by the alien delegates, who still clung to fragile notions of diplomacy. Ambassador Lyra Kane stood at the front of the convoy, cloak billowing faintly in the wind, her sharp eyes scanning the crumbling council hall ahead. Every detail mattered: the position of security, the placement of medics, the angle of potential fire. She inhaled deeply, the hum of tension pressing against her chest. "They expect us to retreat. They think we're just diplomats. Let's prove them spectacularly wrong," she thought, lips tightening into a grim line. Her second-in-command, Security Chief Roan, moved beside her like a shadow, broad-shouldered, grim, and quick to push for defensive measures. He whispered, "Ambassador, we can't trust them. They've been shooting before we even step inside." Kane's mind worked in silent, ruthless calculations. Trust is a luxury. Timing is a weapon. And sometimes, the best defense is a controlled show of force. As the humans entered the council chamber, the doors barely closed behind them when the first volley of energy blasts hit the reinforced walls. The force rattled the floor, a jolt that reverberated through the room like a warning. "You are not safe. Not yet." Delegates froze, their scaled metallic skin shimmering under the flickering lights, eyes darting in panic. Kane's voice, calm but commanding, echoed across the chamber. "We came to talk, but we will not negotiate under fire." Her inner monologue flickered with thoughts of strategy and moral weight. Words can be as sharp as blades. But sometimes blades speak louder than words. Outside, human warships drifted silently above the city in cloaked orbit. Each vessel was a masterpiece of lethal elegance. Weapons primed, but hidden in an invisible hand ready to strike at a moment's notice. Krynn had orchestrated this carefully. The mercenaries would soon discover that humanity was a force unlike anything they had faced. The council chamber trembled again, and Krynn's pulse quickened. Her fingers tapped a silent rhythm on the console embedded in her sleeve, coordinating with the warships above. Timing is everything. One mistake in these negotiations become a massacre. Midway through the discussion, a sudden breach the council hall's outer perimeter doors shattered under controlled blasts from a mercenary detachment. Krynn's pulse raced, yet her voice remained steady, almost serene. I suggest you reconsider your actions. Violence here benefits no one. Roan's hand hovered over his sidearm. Now, he thought, this is our moment to show them what we can do. And then, from the shadows of the city, human tactical drones activated. Swift, precise, and silent, they incapacitated the intruders with non-lethal strikes. Their movements, synchronized with the faint pulsing lights of the cloaked warships above. The mercenaries faltered, confusion spreading across their ranks. They had underestimated the humans. Krynn moved among the delegates, keeping her composure, even as smoke filled the chamber from the drone's small ion discharges. She caught the frightened glances of alien council members, fear, relief, all mingled in their expressions. They are seeing humanity in its entirety, measured, precise, unyielding. One delegate, a shimmering, insectoid alien, with violet carapace, whispered, How are they not killing everyone? Krynn paused, offering a calm smile, almost philosophical, because saving lives is sometimes the most lethal weapon of all. As the humans stabilized the situation, Krynn's attention drifted to the outer plaza, where the mercenaries regrouped. With a subtle gesture, the warships above recloaked briefly and unleashed a controlled orbital strike not to destroy, but to disable and intimidate. Metal and concrete twisted, disabling enemy machinery, forcing retreat without mass casualties. Inside, the council chamber hummed with tension. Delegates whispered among themselves, debating the nature of these humans. Were they saviors? Predators? Both. Krynn could almost read the moral uncertainty flickering across their faces. Exactly as planned, she thought. They must respect the force behind our words to heed them. Her mind flickered to Roan, who now relaxed slightly, realizing the orchestration had gone flawlessly. Krynn allowed herself a brief glance at him, a subtle nod acknowledging the tension and trust that had carried them through the crisis. Meanwhile, the mercenaries outside began to understand the full weight of what they faced. Their confidence eroded under the combined sight of precise drones, the looming shadows of orbiting warships, and the unwavering human presence on the ground. One leader, a tall, jaggedly armored figure, raised a surrender flagon, almost imperceptible gesture, yet powerful in the silence of the city. Krynn turned her gaze back to the council. Diplomacy has succeeded, but at a cost. She caught the eyes of delegates who had once doubted her, their awe tinged with fear. Humanity had delivered not just negotiation but revelation, power wielded with precision and morality, mercy intertwined with overwhelming capability. Her inner monologue wrestled with the duality of the moment. We are trusted, we are feared, we are necessary. And yet, how long before fear outweighs trust? In the aftermath, Krynn walked among the delegates and mercenaries alike, observing the aftermath of human intervention. Buildings bore minor scars from the controlled strikes. Machinery was damaged, but the city itself remained intact. Civilians emerged from hiding, cautious, but alive. Their whispers of awe, their silent gratitude, carried an unspoken understanding. Humans had saved lives. Yes, but had also demonstrated a force that could not be ignored. Krynn found a young mercenary, no older than 16 by human reckoning, hiding behind a collapsed wall. The boy's eyes were wide, trembling. Krynn knelt, voice soft but firm. You are safe now, she said. We do not fight to kill, we fight to protect. The boy hesitated, confused, fear and admiration mingling in his gaze. And this is the lesson of humanity, Krynn reflected internally. Sometimes the strongest hand is one that can destroy, but chooses mercy. As the sun dipped behind Draskar's shattered skyline, the cloaked warships slowly withdrew to orbit, their presence a silent reminder of the humans' reach and resolve. Krynn stood at the edge of the council hall's balcony, looking out over the city, the smoke, and the awestruck faces below. She felt the weight of her decisions press against her chest, yet also a fierce pride. We came to negotiate, We delivered both diplomacy and inevitability. And perhaps that is the true nature of humanity. The mining colony on Aerithos 4 was a graveyard of industry. Rusted machinery jutted from the cracked, red soil like the bones of forgotten beasts. Toxic clouds rose from broken refineries, staining the sky in muted ochres and grays. The humans landed, expecting a routine mission: deliver aid, assess infrastructure, provide medical support. But the sight of orphaned alien children scavenging among the ruins immediately shattered those expectations. Engineer Talia Wren stepped off the dropship, her boots crunching against gravel. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, softened as they fell upon a small group of children, huddled near a derelict extractor. They were malnourished, clothes tattered, skin smudged with grime and the subtle luminescence of their species. Biomarkings dimmed by neglect. Talia's inner monologue churned. I came to fix machines. But these are lives I need to repair too. Behind her, Fleet Commander Hux observed silently, hands clasped behind his back. A stoic veteran, he had seen countless colonies crumble under war, greed, and neglect. Few had survived untouched by the scars of human intervention. Hux's gaze lingered on the distant mountains, the warships hidden in orbit above. They were ready, concealed from view, primed to protect, but here, in the shadow of innocence, even he hesitated to pull the trigger. Talia knelt before the children, offering a small, rough smile. You're safe now, she said softly. Some of the children flinched, unsure whether to trust this stranger. Their eyes, wide and unblinking, flickered between hope and fear. This is going to take more than medicine, Talia thought. They need guidance, structure, someone to teach them how to survive and survive well. As the humans set up their temporary base, they began repairing essential infrastructure, water filtration units, rudimentary shelters, and energy grids salvaged from the ruins. The children, hesitant at first, began to follow Talia, learning to operate tools, organize supplies, and even help with basic repairs. Laughter, fragile but real, began to thread through the ruins, a sound almost alien in its rarity. But peace never lasted long on a planet abandoned by corporate oversight. From the shadows of the crumbling mining shafts, a band of scavengers emerged, armed with crude weapons and hungry eyes. They mistook the colony for abandoned treasure. Their approach was swift, predatory. Talia's heart hammered in her chest. We didn't come here to fight, but we can't let them harm these children. Hux's voice came over Cums, calm yet unyielding. Warships in orbit are standing by, initiating precision engagement. Suddenly, the skies above lit with faint cold glows as human warships cloaked, their engines humming like coiled predators ready to strike. They hovered above the settlement with silent menace, invisible to those unaware. Yet their presence alone radiated authority and danger. The scavengers reached the outer perimeter of the colony. They paused, sensing something they couldn't see but could feel: a tension in the air, a weight that pressed on their instincts. Then, without warning, precision strikes from orbital weapons erupted around them. The explosions were minimal, targeted, designed to incapacitate rather than destroy. Dust, debris, and the crackle of energy left them stunned, disoriented, and powerless. Talia moved swiftly among the children, guiding them to safe zones while drones deployed to neutralize remaining threats. She marveled at the efficiency of human coordination. The warships above, drones below, and humans on the ground working as a single organism, almost organic in their precision. One child, a small boy with luminescent markings now flickering in shades of trust, tugged at Talia's sleeve. Are they gods? He whispered, awestruck. Talia crouched, meeting his gaze. Her voice was soft but firm. No, just people, who fight to protect. But inside, she felt the weight of truth. They seemed like gods, and in some ways, we are at least to them. The battle ended almost as quickly as it had begun. The scavengers, incapacitated and humbled, fled into the desolate mountains, leaving the colony intact. The children emerged from hiding, laughter breaking out in cautious bursts. For the first time in years, they were free from immediate fear, though the shadow of human firepower lingered like a silent promise. Hux descended from his observation post, walking among the survivors. The warships above recloaked, a quiet menace fading into the night sky. He approached Talia, noting the children clustered around her, eyes bright and shimmering. They'll look at us differently now, Hux said quietly. They'll see both sides. Talia replied, we saved them. And yet, we've reminded them that we could destroy if we wanted. Hux nodded. That duality is what defines us, he thought. Mercy and strength, hope and fear, all woven together in the same act. Night fell over Aerithos for painting the colony in deep oranges and muted reds. Fires from damaged machinery reflected faintly in the children's eyes as they huddled together, some laughing, some trembling. Talia moved among them, teaching, consoling, repairing not just infrastructure, but fragile spirits. A small girl, no older than 7, approached Huck's hand, extended timidly. "Will you stay?" she asked, eyes wide with wonder and fear. Hux knelt, voice gentle. "We can't stay forever. But while we are here, you are safe." The children's expressions flickered between trust and lingering fear. Yet Talia noticed something remarkable. They were beginning to understand the balance of power. Humanity's presence was a shield, but one that reminded them that protection came with responsibility. And sometimes AWODOD, as dawn broke, casting a soft red glow over the ruined city, Talia and Hux watched the colony stir. The children were repairing small tools, organizing supplies, practicing survival skills. Their luminescent markings shifted in pulses of tentative confidence. Some would idolize the humans as saviors, others would fear them as gods of war. Talia walked among the children, thinking of the moral paradox of their mission. We came to heal, but in healing, we had to fight. In fighting, we had to show mercy. And in showing mercy, we became something more than mere saviors. Hux joined her, voice calm but carrying the weight of his experience. "Do you think they understand what we've done?" Talia shook her head. "They'll understand eventually, or they'll only remember the fire. Either way, they will never forget humanity." The city of Korrath burned under a violet-tinted sky, its spires crumbling and streets choked with smoke and dust. From orbit, the human fleet observed silently, cloaked engines humming faintly like a heartbeat across the horizon. Civilians scrambled through alleys, their faces pale and frightened, as the merciless alien army pressed its siege, expecting the city to crumble beneath them. Captain Idris Vale tightened his grip on the console of his dropship. His eyes scanned the city, calculating every angle of approach, every possible threat vector. Beside him, Engineer Luma adjusted the targeting array with a quiet hum, offering the occasional sharp, sarcastic remark to ease tension. "You know, Captain," she said, smirking, "this is one of those times when diplomacy would have been easier." Vale didn't smile. "Diplomacy didn't save the last dozen cities we responded to. Prepare for a tactical insertion." His voice was steady, calm, but internally, adrenaline and anticipation surged. "We came for aid, but we may leave as saviors of war." The humans deployed their first wave of medical units. Dropships descended, carefully landing near makeshift clinics. Medics rushed into the streets, stabilizing civilians while keeping an eye on the approaching mercenary forces. Vale watched the operation unfold with both pride and the gnawing tension of responsibility. "We're healers, yes, but war waits for no one, and sometimes mercy must wear armor." The mercenaries advanced swiftly, their movements coordinated and ruthless. Children screamed, elders collapsed, and the streets became a chaotic battlefield. Vale's hand hovered over the tactical interface. "Initiate countermeasures," he commanded. From the shadows, precision orbital strikes erupted. Laser arcs streaked through the violet haze, disabling siege engines and mercenary weapons with surgical accuracy. Explosions lit the city in brief, dazzling flashes. Dust and debris churned through the streets, yet civilians remained largely unharmed. Luma laughed softly, a sound meant to break tension. "I told you, Captain, humans know how to multitask, save lives, obliterate threats, look good doing it." Vale allowed himself a brief grin, the humor a fleeting relief against the storm of chaos. "Don't get used to it," he muttered. "Focus. Every strike counts. Every civilian saved is a promise we must keep." The mercenary leadership, expecting a swift victory, now hesitated. Their confidence faltered as human warships emerged from cloaked orbit, engines glowing faintly in the dying light. Precision strikes followed a deliberate pattern, each one calculated to neutralize threats without excessive destruction. Vale observed with satisfaction as their formations broke apart, confusion spreading like wildfire. Civilians and city defenders looked up, eyes wide with awe. The humans had arrived to deliver aid, yet their presence alone reshaped the battlefield. The moral weight of humanity's intervention was unmistakable. Protection coupled with overwhelming precision. In the city's central plaza, Vale and Luma coordinated a daring maneuver. Dropships ferried medics to trapped areas, while orbital strikes suppressed enemy positions. Civilians were moved to safe zones in a choreographed flow of efficiency. The city, though scarred, remained intact. Vale's inner monologue reflected the complexity of the operation. "We came for aid. We are leaving as a force they will never underestimate. Mercy and fire walk together, and we must guide them carefully through both. Amid the chaos, a young Korrathi woman appeared, injured and cornered. Vale and Luma rushed to her aid, medics following close behind. Vale lifted her gently, whispering assurances in her native tongue. Her eyes fierce, distrustful, yet slowly softening mirrored the awe and fear the humans inspired. We are saviors, and yet gods in their eyes, Vale thought. A burden heavier than any weapon. A sudden ambush from a mercenary detachment forced Vale and Luma to improvise. Dropships descended in daring arcs, firing non-lethal suppression rounds, while medics continued evacuations. The orbital warships timed strikes to perfection, hitting only strategic points to disorient and disable. Vale's strategic mind raced, adjusting vectors in real, calculating risk versus reward. The Korrathi leadership, observing from fortified positions, began to realize the full scope of human capability. Their arrogance faltered as they recognized the duality. Humans were both protectors, an overwhelming force, wielding power with precision and restraint. As night fell, the siege subsided. The city, though battered, survived. Civilians emerged from shelters, cautious but alive. Streets once filled with fear now resonated with whispers of awe. Vale walked among them, assessing damage, offering words of reassurance, his uniform streaked with soot and dust. Luma, ever the voice of levity, teased a child, frightened by the shadows of drones overhead. Don't worry, they only bite when told to. Vale's mind wandered to the broader consequences. Humanity had arrived, expecting to deliver medical aid. They had also delivered a lesson in both restraint and dominance. The moral dichotomy weighed on him. We save lives and impose order, and yet, are we showing them hope or fear? In the aftermath, Vale and Luma coordinated reconstruction efforts, overseeing the establishment of safe zones, triage centers, and temporary shelters. Civilians began to trust the humans, some clinging to their every word, others hesitant, unsure of what to make of their saviors. Children, now laughing softly, clutched to the hands of medics, who had become unlikely guardians. From orbit, the warships recloaked their engines, a faint hum, a silent reminder that humanity's reach was precise and potent. Vale and Luma observed the retreating fleet, reflecting on the impact of their actions. We entered as healers, we leave as legends. Perhaps gods, perhaps protectors, Vale thought. And the Korrathi, and every survivor here, will carry the memory of that duality forever. By dawn Korrath had survived. The mercenary forces retreated, their confidence shattered. Civilians now understood the duality of humanity, protectors, yet capable of calculated devastation. Vale and Luma, exhausted but resolute, prepared for their next mission, leaving the city alive and changed forever. The planet Yalith lay cloaked in the soft glow of bioluminescent forests, rivers shimmering under the starlight like veins of liquid sapphire. At first glance, it seemed untouched, serene paradise hidden in the void of space. But the subtle yellowing of the foliage, the faint hiss of evaporating water, and the restless movements of the Lumari, an ancient alien species, told a different story. Death was creeping in slowly, invisibly. Their world was dying, and with it, the symbiotic species that depended on it. Dr. Mara then stepped carefully along the bioluminescent moss, her boots leaving temporary impressions on the glowing ground. Her eyes traced the flowing patterns of the rivers, noting anomalies in the water's luminescence. They didn't ask for help, but they needed desperately, she thought, heart heavy. If we fail here, it's not just a species, it's a civilization vanishing in silence. Captain Orion Kale followed, silent and imposing, hands clasped behind his back. He observed the landscape, aware that Yalith's isolation was both a blessing and a curse. Hidden in orbit above, the human warships waited, cloaked and ready. Their presence was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Kale knew the moment could arrive when intervention became necessary. The Lumari emerged cautiously from their settlements, ethereal beings with semi-transparent, elongated bodies, shifting colors in accordance with their emotions. They approached Mara hesitantly, their bioluminescent skin flickering like dying stars. Mara knelt slightly, keeping her gestures numb. "We're here to help," she whispered, though she knew the words carried little weight without action. The first task was assessment. Mara used portable scanners to analyze environmental toxicity, water quality, and Lumari health. The readings were grim. Air and water contained escalating toxins, and the Lumari exhibited signs of nutrient deficiency, directly tied to planetary decay. Each measurement pressed heavily on Mara's conscience. "This is worse than I imagined," Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed across the valley. Mara and Kale looked up to see opportunist raiders descending from cliffside paths, alien factions from neighboring systems, drawn by the Lumaris resources and the planet's isolation. Their intent was clear: seize whatever could be extracted, leave destruction behind. Kale's voice was calm, measured. Time to remind them why we are here. From the hidden orbital fleet, precision strikes were deployed. Laser arcs silently incapacitated enemy machinery, disabling vehicles and weapons without harming the forest or loot. Mara watched in awe as the humans' coordination became evident. Tactical drones protected Lumari settlements, while medics moved to secure endangered individuals. Her mind wrestled with the moral ambiguity. We are saving lives. Yes, but at what cost? We disrupt their world, even as we preserve it. A raider attempted a direct assault on a Lumari settlement. Mara instinctively stepped forward, heart racing, but Kale's steady hand on her shoulder halted her. Observe, he said. We intervened precisely. No collateral damage. Mercy with power. The strike sequence was elegant. Drones swooped, disabling raiders' exosuits and disarming them. Mara could see the confusion on their faces. The realization that humans could impose order without destruction, that they were guardians in silence, but also formidable. She knelt beside a Lumari child, its glow dim, fear evident. Mara placed a hand gently on its shimmering form. You're safe now, she whispered, guiding it toward a protected area. Its glow returned gradually, colors shifting from fear to cautious trust. They are fragile, but resilient, Mara thought, and we must respect both. The battle subsided quickly, leaving the raiders incapacitated or fleeing. Kale signaled the orbital fleet to recloak their presence, now a silent warning, a promise of protection without overt interference. Mara and Kale walked among the Lumari settlements, noting the subtle reactions. The ancient species expressed gratitude through color shifts and vibrations. Yet there was also apprehension. Humans had intervened. Yes, but the sheer presence of the warships, the precise strikes, and the ability to control events without apparent risk left an indelible mark on their psyche. Do they see us as saviors, or as gods? Mara wondered. Night fell over Yalith, the bioluminescent forests glowing faintly in the dim light of twin moons. Mara sat beside a river, observing Lumari tending to weakened kin, water flowing in gentle currents, reflecting the humans' interventions. Kale stood at a distance, his silhouette framed against the star-streaked sky, silent and watchful. Mara's mind wandered. Our intervention preserves life, but it also imposes a presence they may never fully understand. Are we benevolent guardians, or silent overlords in disguise? The next day, Mara led environmental rehabilitation efforts, purifying water, reinforcing forest areas, and carefully rebalancing toxic zones. The Lumari began to participate, guided by subtle instruction, learning to restore their world alongside humans. The symbiosis between species and planet was delicate, and Mara could see the tension between intervention and autonomy. Kale watched quietly, analyzing potential external threats. The orbital fleet remained cloaked, their surveillance unintrusive but omnipresent. Mara noticed the faint shift in his posture. Vigilance, mingled with moral caution. We can protect them, Kale said softly, but we cannot interfere with everything. They must retain agency, even as we defend it. Mara nodded. Agency and survival, trust and control. Balancing them is an art we may never perfect. A group of raiders returned, emboldened by their prior failure. Mara's heart pounded, but Kale's calm voice reassured her. Wait for the right moment. Strike with precision. The humans acted in unison. Drones incapacitated the raiders, the warships subtly projecting deterrence without overt aggression. The Lumari watched silently, understanding now the duality of humanity. Protectors capable of devastating power, guardians who choose mercy. Mara moved among the Lumari, comforting frightened families and explaining, through gestures and translated speech, that humanity's presence was temporary but essential. Their gratitude was genuine, yet tinged with awe and subtle fear. As the conflict subsided, Mara sat by a glowing riverbank with Kale. Do you think they'll forgive our intrusion? She asked. Kale considered the question carefully. Forgive, perhaps. Respect and understanding, that is earned, and we have begun that process quietly, deliberately. Sometimes, that's all we can do. Dusk fell, painting the forest in soft blues and purples. Mara watched Lumari children, learning to play safely again, their bioluminescent markings shifting from fear to curiosity and joy. The adults began cautious cooperation in environmental restoration. The planet, fragile yet resilient, seemed to breathe once more. The planet Tessara X was a scarred world. Once lush plains now bore the marks of prolonged conflict. Scorched earth, shattered cities, and settlements half swallowed by famine. Smoke drifted lazily over ruined marketplaces, carrying scent of burnt wood, charred metal, and something more elusive. Humans had arrived expecting to deliver medical aid, yet the reality they faced was far more complex. Alien factions had weaponized disease, turning plague into a weapon of war. Commander Alara Miles stood atop the landing platform, scanning the settlements with a practiced eye. Her uniform, once pristine, bore soot streaks and dust from previous missions. Her mind worked at a relentless pace. We came to heal, but here, healing and justice are inseparable. Beside her, Dr. Finn Alva adjusted a portable medkit, his idealism almost tangible in the crisp air. "Ilara, we can save them, right?" he asked, voice soft yet edged with urgency. Ilara's eyes swept over the suffering citizens, children coughing violently, elders shivering in the filth, and soldiers from opposing factions guarding the perimeter with suspicion and barely restrained aggression. She knew Finn's hope was genuine but fragile. "We can save some, but the rest will not forgive inaction." The humans deployed first, moving swiftly through the settlements to set up triage centers. Medics worked tirelessly, stabilizing the sick and wounded, rationing supplies. Ilara coordinated with precision, her mind calculating both the medical needs and the political ramifications. The balance was delicate. Intervene too much, and alien factions could see humanity as invaders. Intervene too little, and lives would be lost. As medics treated the sick, Ilara received reports of faction leaders exploiting disease to weaken rival communities. Entire districts had been quarantined, not for safety, but to starve populations into submission. Ilara's jaw tightened. Mercy must be tempered with action. "We cannot allow this." She moved with Finn through one quarantined sector, encountering a group of children emaciated and feverish. Finn immediately knelt beside them, administering medication and comfort, murmuring encouragement. Ilara scanned the surroundings, noting the faint shimmer of hidden surveillance drones. Warships cloaked in orbit, engines silent but ready. "We can stop this." And yet, every intervention carries a cost. A faction leader emerged, demanding supplies for his own forces. His voice was harsh, dripping with authority and barely concealed desperation. "Give us the medicine, or face the consequences." Ilara's inner monologue was steady, controlled. Consequences are coming either way, but they must be guided by principle, not panic. She stepped forward, her voice firm but calm. "We will provide aid to those in need, but disease used as a weapon will be met with justice." The leader's eyes narrowed, suspicion flashing. But before he could react, precision strikes from human warships subtly disabled enemy artillery in surrounding districts. The effect was immediate, but measured. No civilians harmed. Only the tools of aggression neutralized. Finn looked at her, concern and awe mingling in his eyes. "Ilara, we're enforcing justice while saving lives." She allowed herself a small, grim smile. Sometimes salvation demands both. In the midst of relief efforts, Ilara and Finn encountered a child coughing violently, clutching a dying sibling. Finn moved to intervene, administering care, while Ilara scanned the perimeter. She noticed a shadowed figure, one of the faction leaders, observing. In that moment, the complexity of their mission crystallized. Saving lives was not enough. They had to impose accountability, sometimes through controlled, overwhelming force. A sudden outbreak of chaos erupted in another district. A militia faction tried to seize medical supplies, intending to hoard them or weaponize them further. Ilara's decision was swift. "Deploy precision interdiction," she commanded. Drones moved with silent efficiency, disarming the militia without fatalities, incapacitating aggressors while ensuring the delivery of aid. Cinematic visualization, slow-motion sequences of medics treating children, while drones silently neutralize armed militia in the background. Sparks of laser fire illuminate smoke-filled streets, yet no lives are lost. Civilians watch, awe and fear mirrored in their eyes. The moral weight of the operation pressed upon Ilara. We save lives. We enforce order. And yet, are we saviors, executioners, or something in between? At the height of the mission, a faction leader approached, face etched with desperation and pride. He fell to his knees, hands extended. "Please, mercy. We have done what we could to survive. Spare my people." Ilara's mind raced, mercy tempered by enforcement. The lesson must be clear. She gestured for Finn to continue treating the wounded, while she addressed the leader. Your actions endangered countless lives, but we also see your willingness to choose differently. Aid will be provided, but only if future aggression ceases. The leader nodded, relief flooding his features. His followers watched in silence, absorbing the gravity of humanity's presence. Capable of overwhelming power, yet guided by morality, night fell over Tessera, painting the settlements in muted purples and blues. Children slept under makeshift shelters, their fevers eased, their cries softened by the human presence. Civilians whispered among themselves, debating humanity's nature saviors, judges, or something more. Elara walked through the settlement, observing Finn tending to a child who had just begun to smile. Her inner monologue softened, yet remained vigilant. We have saved lives, but the price of salvation is eternal vigilance. Every action leaves a mark. Every mercy carries a shadow. From orbit, human warships recloaked, engines silent against the starry void. Their presence lingered, a reminder of humanity's reach and the ethical burden of their intervention. As dawn broke, Elara convened a final assessment. The city was stabilized, disease contained, factions restrained, but the consequences of their actions were clear. Alien civilizations would now measure humans not merely as healers, but as a force capable of reshaping societies with both compassion and calculated force. She turned to Finn. We've done what we can. The rest must be for them to decide. Finn nodded, eyes lingering on the recovering children. They'll remember this, both the mercy and the weight of our power.